Shot Clock podcast with me, Jago. Today's episode is part 4 of our Return to Sport Wellness Week. I'm joined by joint heads of athletic development for Basketball Ireland, Kev Foley and Pete Madsen. Lads, welcome to the podcast. Great to finally get this organised.
Yep.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. Look, I've started every podcast the same way with the dreaded COVID question, but now that we're transitioning away from that and we're back to playing again, how are you guys finding it?
Kev, you want to go first?
Well, to be honest with you, we've kind of kept, as far as me and Pete playing, we've kind of been doing a lot of individual stuff ourselves anyway. But as far as like the international teams or any type of organized basketball, I mean, trying to organize like home workouts for some of the athletes, I mean, it can only get you so far, and like they'll get fed up eventually. So it's been kind of tough trying to keep it fresh and keep it going in that sense. So, but we're just happy that there is an end in sight where we can actually get back on, into our indoor courts rather than outdoor, because that can be problematic. Lads going straight back to basketball and they're on a concrete outdoor court. So, look, there's a silver lining. So we're nearly there, and hopefully we can get everyone back on court safely.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Pete? Same situation?
Yeah, good. Well, I mean, we chatted before, and I was mentioning how I was training quite a bit, and it was great because I used this opportunity to actually work on a lot of stuff, as I mentioned, from a strength point of view and a niggly kind of injuries that may have kind of cropped up before type of thing. But it's one of those luxuries you get, like as far as when you're not playing ball as a basketball player or as a sports person, to actually use the off season properly. And I think that's kind of just feeds nicely into what we're going to be chatting about. And that one of the biggest things that I think for today's talk or today's chat is that, like, if anyone's listening and you're looking to get into ball or look to do anything off court, the off season is so important from a strength and conditioning point of view. That, like, for myself, I just peeled back so much, like basically doing the most basic stuff and then kind of just layering it and building it. Even at 42, like, I think every athlete, every basketball player at every level should be kind of just getting stuck in. And I think at some point, you need to realize that this will increase and improve, your longevity of your sport, even if it's not professional, you know what I mean? So, yeah, so for me, it's been brilliant, as in being able to just kind of look after myself from a physical point of view, and I'm looking forward to getting back playing. Hopefully I hold up now after all that.
That's the thing. That's my fear. Like, I'd Aoife Callahan on during the week, and I was like, my fear is getting back out onto the court and just down myself in the first session back, because your mentality is 100 miles an hour. You don't, like, none of us, like the three of us now at the minute, we're all far too competitive to just walk on, jog up and down and find your rhythm.
Yeah. Once
that ball goes up, we're going 100%, and that's just the way it is until something breaks.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, this is important.
You're right. And exactly. And that's where this off season and this period, this is what, if any of your listeners now, they need to engage. If they haven't done so, they need to start doing stuff now. And I mean, strength and conditioning, Kev and I were speaking before, like, when people think of strength and conditioning, there's complete misconception. They think it's in the weight room, being a meathead, trying to always put on muscle mass and just smashing people up. But I mean, it's about developing robust and resilient athletes and how you can meet the physical demands of your sport. In our case, basketball. And basketball is massively stressful on the body. So how do you address these things? And for Kev and I and all the strength coaches within Basketball Ireland, we try to scale it back. We do some of the most basic stuff with them, and we build it up from there. So yeah, it's really, really important that athletes kind of use this time to kind of get themselves closer to be able to reach that 100% effort, which is so hard to do. You know what I mean? So it takes time. And if athletes don't realize that, if you're going to step on the court without kind of doing any sort of physical preparation, you're asking for trouble. I think
that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be like, if you look at any of the training camps or you see any of the coaches, obviously the coaches are going to be absolutely gunning to get back as well. And they're going to want to show that they haven't lost a step. And the worst possible thing they can do is go, right, we've got a 3-hour session on Saturday, 3-hour session on Sunday. And like, that's what we're hoping won't happen. So even if you are a player that you're working away on your own, like myself and Pete, we put together that return to play program. Have a look at it on the Basketball Ireland website, and it's the simplest of drills. You don't need a gym. Like, that's the whole point of it. This is stuff you can do at home. Simple body control. Again, like, that will build absolutely brilliant resilience to building up your conditioning when you do hit the court. But like, the worst thing to do would be for us three, like, as you said, get on court and just go 100% for 2 hours, because you will break. You will absolutely break. Something will go. Something will go.
But you remember the NFL lockout?
Yes.
Remember the NFL lockout? Well, I met up with who's actually he's a physio. He's a physio for Bows at the moment. He's an Achilles expert. But he actually worked with the Bulls back in the 90s, and I nearly just pretend to be injured just to go chat to him about the Bulls. But he was telling me about the lockout, and he was saying how literally within whatever space of time post lockout, the Achilles injuries were nearly 4 to 5 times they were prior. You know, and if you think of strain the Achilles are going to see or going to experience once you step on court without gradually building up its ability to handle the pressure of jumping, sprinting, turning, you know, on a single limb, all those things. Yeah, it's going to be, I'd worry for a lot of athletes at the moment, especially basketball players, because of the plyometric nature of basketball, all the jumping, all the sprinting. And as you guys said, like, just, it's hard not to go all out. You can't peel it back, and you can't.
It's been 18 months. It's been 18 months since we've been on a court. So to then turn around and tell somebody to take it easy, it's just counterintuitive. Like, it's like, what? No. I want to get back into it. Even the Premier League, when they came back last season following the break, hamstrings, calf tears, quads, it's all the same kind of thing. So look, starting from there, and it's funny, the questions that came in, some of them are, you know, weight lifting and lifting, you know, based. But like, we'll start with, what lifting should an athlete be doing in season? So they're all basketball related questions, you know, but
this is the misconception. Like, it's crazy to think that me and Peter should do the same shit. He plays a different position.
Yeah.
He like, different level of physicality. He doesn't play with his back to the basket. So he's more like, he'll be more of a fast break leader. I'd be more of a trailer. Like, all of these things come into play. So to say that me and Peter should be doing the same things in season, one rule that you really should abide by is, like, do not be crushing yourself in the gym with multiple exercise sets, high volume of stuff. You call it, you know, the lowering phase of any exercise, where you do the most amount of muscle damage. So you shouldn't really be doing any slow pace lifting in the gym. But then again, you have to be experienced to do fast paced lifting. So like, it's incredible, like, the amount of basketball athletes that me and Peter have worked with, and I swear to God, they all need the most basic of body movements. I am yet to see a basketball player that is a high level mover when it comes to just off court. Like, the amount of stuff that they need is so basic, and that's why the return to play program was basic, but it has to be individual. Like, my Achilles is at me at the moment, so that is going to be what I focus on to try and get back to play. That's my sole focus, because it doesn't matter what else I do. If the Achilles goes, done. I'm not playing again. I'll probably not get back on court until I'm a Masters baller like you two elf farts.
in season lifting is very, very much dependent on what you did in the off season. And if you're not doing anything in the off season and you think that you can come in, this would be typical. And Jago, you can say if this sounds familiar on any team, especially in basketball. You get someone in for 6 to 8 weeks of a pre-season, like a strength coach or you get them in for 6 to 8 weeks. They come in, they do whatever it is, they smash up the players, make them just run the shit out of them, and then they're never seen again. And most of the athletes won't enter or won't go near a gym or won't do some kind of physical prep again for the season. I mean, you have to trying to get an athlete and like, you know, especially in a basketball player, you know, you build that foundation during the off season. You do all, you, like Kev has mentioned, talking about muscle damage and, you know, these very, very specific movements and specific rep ranges and loads. You do this during the off season so that when you're in season, when you go into the weight room should be nothing but stimulatory. So when you go onto the pitch, that we train athletes so that when they step on the pitch or the court, that they feel amazing and they feel fast and they feel strong. You're not going to, like, strength and conditioning is not about, you know, like I said, in season and just absolutely destroy an athlete. It's definitely not about that. So in season lifting, so again, the answer to the question is, what have you done in the preseason? I mean, you should definitely hire a strength coach at some capacity. And like Kev said, it's completely individualized, but a lot of the workouts, athletes need to get away from doing a chest day, a back day, a leg day. It's completely counterproductive as an athlete perspective. Like, if I was to give you a snapshot, you know, a session would be, start of the session would be mobility. After that, you might do some ballistic stuff or some, like, you know, plyometric stuff, depending on where you are. After that, you do some sort of full body strength stuff, and it will be everything from a squat variation, predominantly single leg, to a hip movement, to a push movement, to a pull movement, to some sort of rotational movement, and so on. So that would be a snapshot. But again, unless you assess the athlete, you find out, well, what did you do last summer? Well, I just played ball. Yeah, you're maybe not a good example. But in season lifting, absolutely so important. Michael Jordan said he never felt as good when he was lifting in season, but he got himself to a point.
Well, he brought in a strength and conditioning coach pre-season. That was following the Pistons beating him up for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he knew that's what he needed, but he started the day the season ended.
Yeah.
But why are basketball players not doing this? Why are the GAA, the IRFU, these guys are doing this stuff? Basketball players seem to say off season. Oh yeah, off season is off.
But the GAA have only adopted that recently. Like, I mean, like you're seeing the benefits of, like, the Dubs of adopting an all year round policy, because they're out there and they're smashing teams. Yeah. But the biggest reason, like, a player gets injured is, this is my opinion, is muscle imbalances. So I've seen players that get injured, right? So the first thing I'll do with a basketball athlete is, like, can you balance on one leg? And they'll always do well on one side versus the other. And then all of a sudden you balance them on the opposite leg and they can't actually balance on it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're doing two-legged squats. That's only making one side stronger and one side, like, going the other way. So what I tend to do is, and what me and Peter would tend to try and put into our programs as much as we can, is to correct those imbalances during the preseason and make sure throughout the season that those imbalances haven't come back. So that would be our main focus, is to just keep those imbalances as close to that as possible, because that's how you get injured. It's one side is much stronger than the other. One side is a lot less mobile than the other, or one side is there's far more instability, where you can't like balance on one leg and then you're just deciding to go up and try and dunk on someone or try and get up as high as you can. The pressure's, like, the muscle's not able for that. Yeah. So what happens? The hip, bang, gone. Lower back, knee, ankle. And that's where you see it. But then everyone's like, oh, I should rehab my ankle. But the problem's in your hip. It can become a mind.
I've seen it with teammates where, you know, they've had groin surgeries and the issue wasn't their groin at all. Their issue was their calf muscle that was pulling their knee out of place, that was pulling their hip out of place, that was putting pressure on their groin. And, you know, 2 surgeries later, they meet somebody like one of you guys by chance and they go, well, hang on, exactly like you said, stand on one foot for me. And when they're wobbling, they're going, no, it's actually your calf is the issue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you deal with athletes on a joint by joint basis.
Yeah.
So you would assess the stability and mobility of all the joints, and then you get, like, this whole picture. Whereas, like, I know for a fact my Achilles is not where the problem is. because I've read enough research. I know my hip on the other side is where the problem is because I'm unstable. So that Achilles is constantly switching on and constantly overworked, and now it's just gone. I've had enough of you. Until I address the hip issue, that's going to just keep coming back. I can roll, I can stretch, I probably should be doing a bit of strength work on it, but a lot of times the issue is elsewhere. And that's why giving someone this program, or one of the young athletes going on one of these websites and getting a basketball program that is based for a pro athlete that's been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's a great looking program, but it's not great for that kid.
It's funny, Hannah Thornton was on the other day and she said that when she was in the States, you know, when she went over initially, that was the thing that she saw, was that like these kids were light years ahead of us Irish kids, you know, from a strength and conditioning point of view.
Yep.
And like I spoke on your episode, Pete, about this, saying, you know, it's great to finally see that we're investing in grassroots strength and conditioning. But like,
I mean, but it has to be happening at a club level. You know what I mean?
Here's the question. There you go. That's exactly what I was going to say to you. Should every club try to employ a strength and conditioning coach?
Absolutely. To a point, like, and when you say strength and conditioning, I mean, sometimes Kev and I have chatted before about this. We hate that phrase, strength and conditioning. I mean, obviously, strength is a part, but it is about helping, especially young kids, teaching them how to move well, how to land, how to twist, how to turn, how to accelerate, how to decelerate, really kind of stuff like that, which you can incorporate into, say, you know, a warm up or a daily session and stuff like that. But yeah, like I don't know, for some reason, basketball players kind of putting the cart before a horse type of thing, you know what I mean? And, you know, but clubs definitely, they need to, why would you not invest in your athletes? And why would, I mean, I know when my daughter gets to an age, I'll be, you know, guiding her in that direction. And obviously I have the knowledge to be able to do it, but like, I don't understand why a parent would not kind of, if you can see a bit of potential, get like, say, a movement coach or performance coach or a strength coach that has experience dealing with youth athletes. And it's just funny because Kev and I have actually even started writing a curriculum for youth athletes, and which we're going to be rolling out to a number of teams and targeting Irish basketball, like on a private basis. Like, so hopefully we'll get some looks in there.
Absolutely.
We're actually on a podcast, on a Zoom call where we did a podcast for Basketball Ireland, and Aina Rutherford was on it with us, and he made a great point that I don't think I hadn't heard. Like, it's so simple, but I hadn't heard it before. People think S&C or physical preparation is for the Irish teams or the elite level athletes. It's absolutely not. Like, it's for everybody, and I think that's where parents kind of fall down. It's like they see S&C and they look, oh, Ronaldo does that, or LeBron, that's for LeBron. It's not. You can like even improve a kid's quality of life with everything he does or she does just by incorporating some sort of physical work, physical preparation. So I thought Aina made a great point, just saying it is for everyone.
Fantastic point.
Yeah,
absolutely. So like not every coach has the access or the knowledge that you two guys have. What can a, you know, so-called normal coach do within training for basketball from whatever age to introduce, you know, mobility, strength and conditioning? Like, again, strength and conditioning has this connotation in it. Let's say mobility and you know, flexibility even. Yeah. What can we do as coaches to implement this into our sessions?
Well, it's simple. You got to hire someone that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, without beating around the bush, I mean, basketball coach is a basketball coach, and I mean, give them things that they can, like, so for example, if we went in and we spent a couple of weeks with a team or a club, you can put stuff in place, and then, you know, you want the kids to be able, or the players, even senior level, to be able to do these things. So when they're able to do it and I'm doing warm up one, you know, they'll know what they're doing, type of thing. So, yeah, I wouldn't be asking a basketball coach to then start to look at progressions and regressions of different exercises within a certain warm up and stuff like that. Again, it's about investing in the athletes and, you know, having something in place for them. You know what I mean? I think it's really important to and it would make a difference. I think it really does.
Me and Pete have discussed, like, there is a like a pitfall in Irish basketball, like where the coaches are doing a great job, but their time is limited. So we're looking at not only maybe rolling out something for the athletes, but maybe putting together some workshops for Irish basketball coaches to come and do a weekend where we can show them the simple stuff to be able to put into their sessions that will help on court. Nothing about the gym, because to be honest with you, a lot of times it's not needed, because the kids are they might be really, really top class basketball players, but from a physical point of view, they're so low down. So they need just the most basic of just a really adequate warm up, few speed drills they can do, some jumping mechanics that they can, even landing mechanics. So we're planning to roll that out as well. So hopefully a lot of coaches around Ireland will want to upskill and be able to just, because it will improve their team like tenfold.
Stick my name down for that straight away. Straight away.
Will do.
So, tips for gaining size yet staying agile as a basketball athlete.
Okay. Gaining size. Sorry?
Go on. The muscle-bound athlete over there.
The muscle-bound athlete. You know, and it's a, I guess, yeah, okay. So building muscle, it's always one of them things that people always ask, you know, or one of the funny things you get is, what'd you say?
Every time. It's just the question. I want to put on size this off season. Why? What? Why?
Yeah, you got to ask it. Like, I mean, how much? Like, would it benefit your game? I mean, one of the things we usually get, or some of the cases would be like athletes will say, "Oh, I don't want to put on too much muscle," and you're like, "All right, take it easy." You know, it's not that easy to actually put on muscle mass. Or if you're a female athlete, sometimes they worry that they'll put on muscle mass. But obviously within the constraints of like the parameters that we would program athletes, like you don't just walk in a gym and you just start lifting and then you start piling on muscle mass. Like it doesn't work that easy. To answer the question, how would you put on muscle mass? I mean, a lot of the time is to do with your calorie intake, and that gets into the nutrition realm. I know you had Hannah on.
Yeah.
So the calorie in, calorie out, I don't know if she mentioned anything about that, but energy expenditure. So once you're in a surplus, like you're taking in more calories than you're expending, and you will do some form of resistance training at specific rep ranges and the amount of times, you know, over the course of a month, say, then, and plus genetics, all right? That's an important thing, because some people can just look at it.
Am I pointing at them?
Some people are lucky, and sometimes it's difficult. So
unlucky.
Yeah, very unlucky.
So
but at least you had hops, Jago. I didn't even get the hops.
I got the hops. That was it, though.
So, but in all seriousness, to answer the question is, it's a full approach. So there are some athletes. Let's look at the other side. Let's look at the athletes that actually do need to put on a bit of muscle mass. And why would an athlete want to put on muscle mass? Would it be counteractive to their sport or to basketball? If they're doing biceps after biceps after biceps, then maybe. Of course, it might. Are they putting on muscle mass to the point to where it would kind of make them a bit heavy, and they're not doing the right stuff on top of that to be able to translate, you know, the explosiveness? Then maybe. Again, it comes down to doing the right things at the right times. So food, number one, if you look to put on muscle mass, is so important. If you can't measure it, then there's no way you can manage it. So you have no idea if you're in a surplus or a deficit unless you're actually monitoring what you're doing. Your sleep, massively important, hugely important when it comes to putting on muscle mass, because you release growth hormone when you sleep. You have the biggest spikes when you sleep. So I mean, again, it's just that brings you into the recovery realm. Recovery, you don't train if you can't gain. Training if it's properly periodized and planned. But again, going in, athletes, Irish basketball players need to understand that, like, going into the weight room and doing chest one day, doing back the next day, it is going to be counterproductive to their game, and two, they're more prone to get injured. They're definitely more prone to get injured when they step on the court.
There's two examples here, Jago, and they're both mates of mine, so they won't mind me slagging them or giving them props. So here we go. Remember, Matt Kelly is a personal trainer, right? And he plays for Marion. So he put on a good bit of muscle because he was a personal trainer. Now, during the off season, he piled on muscle. He was huge, but he lost some of his agility. Because he's a personal trainer, he probably felt he had to keep that size just as a marketing tool to get clients. But then you have Scott Kinnavan on the other hand, who was putting muscle on, but also like focusing massively on mobility every day. Like, people don't realize that about Scott. They see him out there and they see this fiery character, but he does at least an hour's stretching a day, but he does appropriate weight training where it's not trying to put on size. The size is almost a byproduct of the strength he has. Mm-hmm. And then he's making sure that he's doing appropriate speed work. So that's where the term strength and conditioning can lose people, because there's no flexibility word in there and there's no speed word in there. That's a lot of the training that we need to be doing is speed mechanics, landing mechanics, and absolutely keeping our mobility. That's just huge. And a lot of the athletes out there are getting injured because simple things like they can't get near their toes when they go try to just do a hamstring or posterior stretch. So there's examples of putting on too much size versus definitely putting on size but keeping the other stuff in check as well.
Well, I mean, 10 minutes. If you do 10 minutes of mobility work, you do exactly these specific movements that basketball players need: hips, ankles, lower back. Make sure that those areas are being targeted. You can do it within 10 minutes. If you're in the weight room twice a week, that's 20 minutes. Your basketball twice a week, 3 times a week, that's another 30 minutes on top of that. Over the course of the week, you know what I mean? You're getting it in to your week, and that's the most important thing. It's not, oh man, I have to schedule an hour to do this single day. If you're working it into your workouts, 1 and 2 into your basketball sessions, you will start to see the benefit. And once people start to see the benefits, then they start doing it more and more and more and more,
Absolutely. With our return to play, what should we as players be doing to prevent injury? Is it, like we said, not going a million miles an hour at the start?
Teach the body to relearn or reteach the body to be able to handle the demands, the physical demands that basketball places on them. How do you do that? You progressively start to build up to it. So we worked with Siobhan O'Connor, Dr. Siobhan O'Connor and Pete Lacey from DCU to write the Basketball Ireland Return to Play Injury Reduction Program. That in itself, phase 1 is 3 weeks. It has everything you need, even from a conditioning point of view, and it's all body weight. Phase 2 and then phase 3, which will be released shortly. I mean, it's just about engaging in it. Athletes realizing what they need to do and just engage in it, really, to be honest. I mean, and just don't go all out. Do not go all out when you step on the floor.
So this is kind of a 2-part question. You kind of said it there anyway. Should you stretch and foam roll daily? And secondly, massage guns are all the rage at the minute. Are they worth the investment?
Kev, you're the mobility expert.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do. I think the only form of training that the more the better is mobility.
Okay.
Like if you overdo it on the conditioning side, you can get injured. You overdo it on the strength side, you can get injured. I think the only thing that works is mobility. That goes the other way. It's constant mobility work will constantly reduce the risk of injury. So ideally what Pete said is even 10 minutes a day, but it's the same type of training. You can't just start your flexibility training, and it is a training. It's people think of it as, oh, it's a before training or after training tool. It's not. It should be given its own time as well. But you can't just start, oh, I'm going to do an hour's stretching today, because that can be detrimental. Start with 10 minutes, next day 15 minutes. But ideally, the massage guns, I don't know enough about them. People like the way I look at it, I know people that use them and they're great. So at least it's having some sort of benefit psychologically.
Exactly.
So I'm all for it if
Exactly.
that's the case.
Because it gets them thinking. Like, it's a mindset. You got to have a mindset that I didn't have when I was a youth athlete. Now that I have it, like, I understand the benefits to it. If they're using a gun because they feel that it works for whatever reason, whether it does or not, the fact that they're thinking, I'm doing this for recovery, you're like, that's good. You're thinking along the lines of recovery. So what else can you do to recover? You've got your gun, which would be probably less influential in terms of your recovery, be less influential than getting 8 hours of sleep and getting your carbs, your proteins and your fats as the base of your pyramid. And then as you go up the pyramid, the gun will be up here. It's not as influential as the bottom part of all those things that cost no money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But again, they're thinking about it. So that's good. That's good. Yeah. So I would try it. Yeah.
Very, very true.
They look a bit dangerous, but I do it.
Yeah, I have one. It's gathering dust because
okay.
I keep looking at it going, no, I must open that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it, yeah. Shaking back from between my ears. I sent you a very specific question from one of my under 20 players. He was suffering from tendonitis of his knees, and he feels like he's lost a step. And that's the magical, I've lost a step. Yeah. What advice would you give him just on this return? And like that, we're back outdoors, so you're pounding your body that extra bit hard,
Yeah, because I know you sent that on to me, and I said, well, I need a bit of context. And he's talking about tendonitis and like itis. Anything with itis at the end of it means it's inflamed. So you could have tendonitis of the knee, like, so the tendon is just inflamed for whatever reason. Like, I'm not a physio or a physical therapist, but I mean, for someone like that, he says he's lost his step. Like, there's so many variables that you could look at as to getting an athlete to feel more explosive. And I think we've already touched upon the whole stuff. Kev mentioned, you really have to re-teach athletes how to move, how to accelerate, how to land, how to jump. I know that sounds really mundane, but when athletes are able to do that effectively and efficiently, you then can incorporate, say, an exercise which will then allow them to adapt and create these qualities, these power qualities, and when they're done at certain speeds and stuff like that, to regain or to improve their first step. Like, he probably just feels weak, very weak. They call it, I feel like, I've lost my first step. But if he can't decelerate or he can't accelerate like off his back leg, like, I mean, I'd have to ask him, and I'd say, well, what have you been doing? What have you been training other than just like, maybe playing a bit of sport? Like, you're going to get better at your sport playing your sport. But as far as the physical qualities, you can bring it to another level by doing stuff very specific. I've talked about, like, the physical demands of the sport. Like, we need, like, that's what Kev and I do, and our strength coaches, we look at the physical demands of the sport. We home in on what those athletes' weaknesses are. And then we just we narrow the gap with their weaknesses and their imbalances. And then all of a sudden we would retest them following a baseline test and hope that they're improving. So someone like that, you might look at it maybe an initial kind of acceleration test or something like that. But yeah, it's for someone like that, there'll be a multitude of things you do with them, But
especially with tendonitis. Tendonitis always screams to me overuse. And not overuse like he's overdoing it like on the core. It's the actual muscle. So the quads attach into the patella tendon, attaches into the knee. So that's what he has. And it always screams to me that muscle, developing force into that tendon is having to work too hard. So something else is not working. Yeah. I'd always look at his hip mobility for that one as well. Just like, see, is he like a stiff athlete? Because you start fixing that, and all of a sudden the tendonitis in the knee goes away. You're starting to see again, the problem may not be there; it's somewhere else. And I know it can be.
But I mean, even like with someone like that, you'd be like, well, how much leg work have you actually ever done as far as physical preparation? You get a lot of athletes, and they say, oh, well, it's grand, I go for a run, and then my legs. So sure, look at my legs. My legs are grand. You're like, oh no. So
do like, alone, don't fall over.
So like I was getting, a couple of years ago, I was getting Achilles pain. And I went to this guy that I told you, Kieran, Paul Kieran, and he tested me. And I wouldn't have done much kind of calf work. And he was like, this is pretty pathetic. He tested me and he even looked at my inner muscles, the inner thigh muscles, my adductors. And he tested me and he's like, you've been playing basketball for how long? Like type of thing. And you're just like, wow. So once he was able to say, point these real, and some of the exercises he gave me were so simple. But I went away and I was so like, oh my God, I'm demoralized by this. This is terrible. Went away and I came back even like stronger, like than I'd been in years. Like, so then as a result, being able to translate into say, you know, spring or sprint, you know, I felt so much better from actually just doing what he had said. And so what was I looking at? Looking at developing the parts of the calf and parts of the inner and along with the other training, and it worked. So back to your question about your friend, like Kev said, maybe he is. Is he in the 5K brigade? Does all he does go 5K and like doesn't actually do stuff that will meet and kind of benefit the demands of the sport that he's doing? So you know, again, you have to look at the professionals in the industry and you know lean on them a bit and go from there. You know what I mean?
Excellent. Right. So before we wrap it up.
Yep.
What's your the best advice from what I'm taking away from this is get onto Basketball Ireland's website, read the return to play program and yes, implement it as soon as you can. Is that the basic takeaway tonight?
Initially, yeah.
Start.
That's a good start. Consider investing. This sounds like a real plug. We're plugging ourselves, but
that's what I want you to do.
If you even have someone local though, like invest in your, like, and I'm talking about everything from the 8-year-old, 10-year-old athlete up to like the aging athlete like us. Like, I mean, why would you not, who doesn't not want to play basketball? We all want to play ball for as long as we can. So why would you not do those things? And, you know, that can maybe prolong your career or take you from this level to the next level in terms of getting to the NCAA. You talk about Hannah talking about the physical, you know, the superiority of a lot of the athletes over there, because it's ingrained in their culture, especially at basketball. And with us, it's just not there.
Basic advice for tonight: start off by as a club hire a strength and conditioning coach, get somebody in.
Yep.
And then secondly, as an athlete, get onto Basketball Ireland and check out the return to play programs.
Check out the return to play programs. Definitely. Kev, do you have any?
Just be very, very careful when accessing online programs, because like, I mean, I was training clients for like last 10 years and I used to buy these programs just to see what they were like. Yeah. And some of them were just like not appropriate for general population. Yeah. But in this sense, I've bought a lot of the basketball ones to see what they're like. And sometimes there's too much in them for young people and the exercises are way too complex. So you're starting off here when you should be starting off here. So just be very careful when accessing stuff online and who it's appropriate.
A good start and a resource that Kev and I use quite a bit, and a guy we studied from is a guy called Mike Boyle. He's pretty good, and so we would take a lot of our stuff from him. So I mean, he's rapid. You know, we rate him. And again, if you're looking at anyone online or you're thinking of start your own training, again, like I said, have that format of mobility. Some form now, depending on where you are, you know, in terms of your training, some kind of movement prep, whether it's the jump, a landing. Again, these are things that you need to know as far as, you know, have a strength coach tease out what suits based on where you are, and then right, so you're having everything from a squat variation. I don't mean back squat heavy. It could be just something that it could be a single leg exercise that targets, you know, predominantly the quads, then a hip exercise, then a push, like a push dumbbell stuff, then a pull, some kind of pull exercise, and then some anti-rotation stuff, whatever. But again, that's the kind of format you'd be looking at a lot of the athletes, especially basketball players or all athletes, to be using. Get away from the meathead chest day, back day, arms day. Like, you should not be doing a shoulders day. It's just like, you know,
insane. It's funny you saying that, because I recorded Dave Donnelly's episode. He said that's the one thing that, you know, when he got to the States and he saw everybody was lifting, he was like, right, I need to lift. And he literally said he just, every day was an arm day. You know what I mean? It was only when he got home he was like, yeah, like great biceps. He said, but like it just killed every other aspect of my game. So
yeah. And I guess, and the other take home is that, like, you know, the overarching idea of what S&C is, or like physical preparation, it is about the whole approach, especially when it comes to teaching the body or relearning the body to move in certain. I'm still learning about different movements and different exercises. Some of those exercises that Dr. Sean O'Connor and Pete Lacey put into that return, I did the return to play. I'm doing it, and I've added in my own little things. But I find some of those exercises great, which I haven't used, and real simple body weight stuff that I'm only barely even able to do because I haven't really been doing it. So I'm at 42. Like, even for some of your older audiences, athletes, they look into getting. It's never ever too late to start doing something to kind of prolong your playing career, you know.
I love how you keep saying you're 42. You're like 43 in 2 weeks or something.
Where's the mute button?
I'm holding on.
42, just at 42. I'm like, many times you've said that.
I'm just not mentioning my age. I'm 45 next birthday.
Oh God.
Yeah, so I'm definitely winding down. I'm like, over 50s is my next, you know, goal in life, is the Masters at over 50s. Look, thanks a million for coming on, lads. Really appreciate it. And obviously, if people want to reach out to you, they can find you through Basketball Ireland as well, or
I mean, all our details are on the return to play stuff. But yeah, they can get us through Facebook and whatever. I don't know.
Lovely.
I'm only on Facebook anyway, but yeah, get in touch, you know, because we would love to get involved with some of the clubs. Like I said, we're putting together long-term athletic development programs for clubs. So
I'm definitely going to get you out to myself and Kane are having an academy out here in Tally. We take from 5-year-olds all the way up. So, you know, animal movement and stuff like that is something that we've been kind of working with. But like to actually get a proper breakdown on it will be much appreciated. It'll definitely get you out when we're back inside.
Brilliant.
Great. Thanks a million, Jay.
Lovely. Listen, thanks a million, lads. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. So there you have it, the last episode of our Return to Play Wellness Week with the heads of athletic development for Basketball Ireland, Kev Foley and Pete Madsen. Very in-depth chat. Hope everyone takes away, you know, something from it. And as the lad said, jump on over to Basketball Ireland's page. The Return to Play program is there. Some great advices regarding sleep and recovery from other strength and conditioning coaches involved within Basketball Ireland. As you may have noticed, we've changed scenery again with a bit of an internet issue, so I had to jump over to Mama Jago's house to record that episode. So thanks, Mom. But back in Shot Clock Towers now. Look, I really enjoyed the week of podcasts. Hopefully you did too. Drop me a line. Drop me a message if you did. If you didn't, drop somebody else a line. Monday, you know what? I'm taking a week's holidays. No podcast next week. I'm going to try and get myself back on the court in some way, shape, or form. So until Monday week, Elaine Scally holds court again. And until then, this is Jago saying, I'll see you on the court soon.